You're tuned into Visions, a business and community affairs program designed to encourage and promote entrepreneurship in Central Alabama.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Vision. Cedric Varner, very excited about our guest today, the Honorable Mayor of the City of Montgomery, Mayor Todd Strange. Mayor, thanks for being here with us on the program.
Cedric, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you
and
back.
I love that radio voice that you have.
We try to do what we can, sir. Glad to have you to come back and talk with us. It's been a few months, and you like to come and give us updates for our viewers in Central Alabama area, and lots been going on in 6-7 months. And so if we just start, you just told me just to go for it. One of the things that's been in the news is the new city budget that you submitted to the city council, and you had a new item on the budget that you were proposing.
Yeah, we had a couple of new items. First of all, our finance staff, budget staff have done a great job. We've gotten it to them a couple of weeks earlier. We've got to get it to them by August the 20th, but we got it to them in the first week. Our budget managers in the various departments have been working now for a couple of months to get there. It's a $242 million budget, up about 2%. We're going to finish 2017 about $1 million over in revenues from the budget. We're going to underspend about $400,000, so we got a little wherewithal there. In the item that's new would be some dilapidation. We had a small amount, $75,000. Last year we're going to have $400,000 to deal with distressed properties and dilapidation. We will get down about 150 structures this year. With that budget, we'll be able to get to 50 to 60 and begin to develop an organization to address that. We'll have probably a couple of $1 million for public safety, which would set targets for our police as well as our fire, up about 10 or 15 from what we have on staff today. And probably the one that you referenced in, we'll have 150, maybe 200,000 in a budget to begin to address what it's going to take to have a city school system. As you well know, we got an intervention going right now. They've said it'll take 3 to 5 years. When that intervention gets complete and it comes back, we want it to come back to something different from what it was taken from, and that would be a city school system. So some money talks about how we can do it legally, how we can do it financially, what the structure would look like, because at the end of the day, if you took in all of the schools in Montgomery County, there'd only be 3 that would be outside the city limits. So somehow you got to figure out how those 3 and those kids that are in those 3 get part of that educational equation going forward with the city school system.
So the intervention that is underway now, is that on record as a 5-year process?
Well, they haven't said 5 years. They've said 3 to 5. What Mike Sentence and the state board said is they want to stay until it gets complete. The big question is, what does complete look like? I don't know that you ever get complete in trying to improve education, but when our test scores begin to go up, when our graduation begins to go up, when we have less teachers that are not in the classroom, when we've got discipline under control, then I think it would be the time to talk about giving it back to the local community.
So on the city schools concept, you believe that once the intervention is over, that it should be a better, more streamlined way of applying educational resources?
Yes, because structurally, by constitution and by statute, a county system, which we are, even though the county doesn't run that system, independently elected board, some of the structural differences, for instance, the chief financial officer doesn't report to the superintendent of education, reports to the board. The chief legal officer doesn't report to the superintendent, reports to the board under the county systems. As a general statement, and I know I'm broad brushing this, but under the county system, the board has a lot of authority and really by statute gets involved in the day-to-day operation. Really, it's the superintendent that ought to be doing that. From a city school system, it just kind of flips it differently, because the superintendent has a lot of authority and the board becomes just what it should be, a policy board applying the budget, providing the resources, and then let the superintendent do what that superintendent's supposed to do.
But what
there are structural differences.
Okay. So, but what you're doing, adding this item to the city budget, is to begin the process of hiring a consultant to start?
Well, actually, some legal minds to see how we can legally do it, get some ideas of how we deal with those 3 schools, see what the delta is between what revenue would follow the student, because even under, it's the exact same thing as Pike Road, the revenue will follow the student, whether it's in a county system, whether it's city school system, but there's going to be some delta. And so you got to figure out what that delta is and how you deal with that delta. The immediate thought when people talk about a city school system, well, there's going to be more taxes. Not necessarily. The new chief financial officer has identified $5 to $6 or $7 million of kind of low-hanging fruit that now can be deployed into the classroom, and that's only after a couple of 3 weeks of looking. So there may be some other assets out there that we might be able to find. We just need to get some fresh eyes looking at the situation and make recommendations. Because we're not going to do this in 6 months. We're not going to do this in a year. It's going to be a 2 or 3 year process. We want to be ready when the state intervention is deemed to be successful and it comes back to something different.
Okay, all right. Well, as it relates to MPS Montgomery Public Schools, I saw you a couple of days ago at the new Lamp High School,
right,
over a very, very fabulous looking building.
Yeah, you know, it takes vision
Yes,
to do
yes,
that. The architect certainly had that vision. You know, many people would say the building doesn't make the student, but in this case, they've had lots of buildings, never been very good. They deserve this, and even Mike Sentence will say, and I know our local board as well, would want to say, we ought to be better than. We ought to keep on moving forward, because if we've got something great, let's make it greater. The challenge will be to keep moving our magnets in a positive direction and at the same time raise up everything else.
Okay, all right, real good.
Because we cannot afford to have any degradation of our magnet program.
So, yeah, so you got to maintain the current level of achievement.
And improve it.
Yeah.
And improve it.
Yeah.
Same time raising up the 27 schools, and frankly, they're more than that, we need to make better test scores. We need to remove all the obstacles from teachers teaching and from students learning.
Okay. And I think I read, not sure, that it was maybe 7,000 students in the magnet program.
Yeah, about 7. There's 30 in the system, so that's 23, 24,000 that we're just not, we're failing right now.
Yeah, understand. All right, well, a lot of things to talk about today. You got downtown, a lot of things going on Dexter. You've got the new, I believe it's called Staybridge Hotel that's
under
going
construction.
And so how are things going with the new shops and the new lofts on Dexter?
Yeah. They're moving in. Some of the people over the weekend had some moving vans moving into the Crest building. The Bell Cutson property is already occupied. Some of the retail will begin over the next 30 or 60 days. So that project is well on its way. We do have the Staybridge Suites there at the old
skate park.
Skate park,
Right.
Thank you. I couldn't. Now that skate park is probably a couple of 3 weeks from opening at Gunter. At the same time, we have the Bishop Parker facility, which is going to be turned into a Spring Hill Suites. Permits are being pulled right now, and that is technically under construction. We've got another one that we can announce pretty quickly, and then we have 2 that we're negotiating. This is all a result. For the last 4.5 years, we've led the state in hotel occupancy in that range downtown, 73, 74%. East Chase is in the same range. So we've got about 7,000 properties today. The downtown properties will get us above the 1,000 rooms, which gives us to another category of being able to go after conventions and meetings.
Okay, so and that's the standard, the 1,000 rooms.
Yeah, just a rule of thumb, you need 1,000 room within walking distance of the facility. The facility, both at the Renaissance and Embassy Suites, and to some extent Doubletree, we can handle the bigger conventions. We just don't have the walk from rooms, and that'll give us the ability to market those.
Well, speaking of downtown, about a month ago, I think I saw you at the new co-working space down Boyd Stevens,
Right.
and that was kind of an announcement of, I guess, the Montgomery Internet Exchange and how that's all.
Well, it's a part and parcel of this whole technology that's developing in Montgomery. Boyd has been a really big part of that. The chamber obviously is leading that. the military really got us going in that direction, and because of the internet exchange, that we're able now to do anything that anybody else can do. Pretty soon we'll have 100 gigabit capability. Atlanta does that today. We would be a very viable alternative to have data centers here and others. We've got about 22 companies that are what they call peering with us or providing contact with us. And all that means is in this internet exchange, you can exchange data, you can manipulate data here, not having to go to Atlanta or Miami or even Dallas. So from an efficiency standpoint, from a cost standpoint, from a time standpoint, time is money. And so we now have the capability of doing everything that anybody else can do. Just as a for instance, AUM was the first educational institution to come on board. Their chancellor told me that they're going to be saving several $100,000 on an annual basis being in there, and have upped their security because of some of the providers that are in the internet exchange. And it's housed at the RSA data center, which is one of the more secure data centers around.
Yeah, we saw Chancellor Stockton down there that day as he made that announcement with you. Since we're talking about downtown, really Maxwell Air Force Base is in downtown area. That takes us to the F-35 project.
F-35, it's been a great effort. I've never seen the community come together as much since Hyundai as with this F-35. I mean, it is a military-driven project. The 187th, Colonel Epperson, he is really leading the charge. But our media and our citizens, and particularly our military group, the governor, Kay Ivey, has been very involved trying to get the peripheral things like more tuition assistance, because that was one of the action items that we had to do, to have the city and the county and the state come together with security fencing and new entrances and things like that. That all spoke volumes about our ability to bed that down here, and the fact that we are moving in this technology direction, because if and when we win this, it will be a situation that they're not going to locate in a community that cannot support this most advanced weapon and avionics in the Air Force. So we're cautiously optimistic. Sometime in the September-October timeframe, the decision has been moved back to a couple of months, that we will be successful, and hopefully in the 2020, 2021 timeframe, we'll have F-35s replacing the F-16s.
All right, Mayor, we only got about 20 seconds left. We won't even have time to talk about it, but you have the Guardian FCS kickoff football game coming up and the Labor Day Classic coming up.
We thank you for allowing us to be here.
All right, thanks you. That's going to do it for us. We ran out of time. We'll have to invite him back so he can do the conclusion. Thanks for watching this segment of Visions. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.